I don't know about you, but I love surprise endings, twists in the tale, unexpected denouement, as they say. My favorite TV show as a kid, I think, well, one of them, there were plenty, was The Twilight Zone. Remember, there was always some kind of surprise ending, twist in the tale. The one that comes to mind is the one who, there's a man who he hates people and he loves to read, and the world blows up and he's the last person on earth, and he can spend all his time to read all his books, and then he steps on his glasses and he can't see the books. Surprise! And there are famous endings of movies like, what is Rosebud? Where's that from?
Citizen Kane.
Thank you. Who was really Luke's father? No, don't say it. It's from Star Wars, of course. I hate finding out surprise endings or the twists in the tale before I see it or hear it, it can ruin it. That's why we have spoiler alerts. You heard that? Spoiler alerts? I have a group of email friends, guys about my age who all grew up reading comic books. I may have told you about them before. About a dozen of us. We're all over the world. And we've engaged in email conversations for over 20 years. It started on comic books, but it's moved to movies and books and life and politics and religion and everything else you can talk about. And often in that group, one of the members will go see a movie before the rest of us, and they want to tell us how it is and what the surprise was. So they will write about it, and then they'll put spoiler alert and go down several spaces so that you don't read it by accident if you don't want to. So that's always very helpful. So, spoiler alerts. Now we can skip them if we want to, know what the surprise was, what the twist was. I often, though, still look and see what the spoiler is, because I may never see that movie anyway, so might as well know what it is. But we get a couple of surprises or twists in the tale in a couple of the readings today. We're so used to these stories that we skip giving it a spoiler alert. In Genesis chapter 45, you remember the backstory of Joseph. He was one of the 12 sons and was the beloved son. And he was given, his father gave him that coat of many colors, and his other brothers just hated him because he was so much the favorite. And his brothers, they all go away and they're going to kill him, get rid of him, but they decide to sell him to the slavers on the way to Egypt. And they tell their dad that he was killed and all that stuff. So he goes to Egypt. He serves, but the Pharaoh's wife, makes some advances toward him, and he refuses, and then she lies about it, gets thrown in jail, and then a couple of years later he hears about the dreams of the Pharaoh, who doesn't know what the dreams mean, and he can explain that God is saying there's going to be a terrible drought, a famine, for many years. And so the king is so appreciative of this knowledge that he makes Joseph the head of this massive governmental program to provide for food during the famine. So that's a long, wonderful story. But that's drought is why these brothers have come to try to get food so that they can survive. They need help. And so they are brought into this Egyptian ruler's presence, ready to beg for the food. And Joseph could no longer control himself before all those who stood by him. And he cried out, spoiler alert, I'm your brother. I'm Joseph. He makes himself known. Can you imagine their shock? They assume he's off either dead or serving somewhere as a slave. And Joseph wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard it and the household of Pharaoh heard it. He says, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him. They are shocked. They are shocked by this twist in the tale. They are so dismayed that That's their brother that they sold into slavery. And Joseph asked them to come closer to me. And, they're probably like, what's he going to do? But they did come closer, and Joseph explains God's purpose in all of this. It was not you who sent me here, but God. I mean, can you imagine the forgiveness that Joseph is giving there, and how they must have heard that? And as a result, the people of Israel come to Egypt, and they're there, of course, for a long time, but they survive through this drought. Well, I love surprises like that. But the truth behind it does not need a spoiler alert. Our loving God is in control. Our loving God is in control. It may take a long time to get there, but our loving God is in control. Now, the gospel has a little bit different kind of surprise. Jesus goes to the district of Tyre and Sidon. These are Phoenician cities. They are Gentiles. They are considered even another race from the Israelites. A Canaanite woman from that region came out, and she starts shouting, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." She seems to know who he is, and that he is the Messiah, and he can heal her daughter. So she's pretty sharp. She knows what he can do. And she calls him Lord 3 times in this passage. She's very deferential. But he doesn't even answer her at all, the scripture says. Really rude. Totally ignores her. It's cold. It's shocking. It's a surprise. And why? And then the disciples come to him and urge him, "Send her away. She keeps shouting after us. Get her out of here, Lord." Finally, Jesus says, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He's defending his reaction to this woman. And I can see the disciples nodding. You're right, Lord. Yeah, you're here for us. You're ours. He has a good reason, an excuse. She's none of his concern. Well, she could have just given up and crawled away, but spoiler alert, she persists. She comes and kneels before Jesus, saying, "Lord, help me." She's begging. In fact, she could have said, "What are you doing in my land? This is my country. You're in Tyre and Sidon." But she didn't. Jesus stands firm, apparently. It is not fair to take the children's food, Israel's food, and throw it to the dogs, the Gentiles. The end. Lesson learned. The disciples are no doubt agreeing, and they're ready to move on. But, spoiler, she persists again. "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs from under the master's table." She's nothing but deferential to Jesus, calling him Lord. And she's very smart. Her beloved daughter is hurting. She will do anything, even beg for the crumbs. And this seems to suddenly and totally change Jesus' mind. "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed instantly. What an unexpected twist in the tale. What a great surprise ending. And once again, the message is clear. Our loving God is in control. It may take a while to get there, but our God is in control and willing and able to heal the hurting and the dispossessed. So now, was Jesus really being rude at first? Did his mind change by this woman? A lot of commentators think so. Even our day one preacher this morning was preaching about that, and it's totally possible. He is human, fully divine. Maybe he did. Maybe she did convince him to change his mind. But I wonder, maybe there's something else going on here. And Jesus is using this encounter to teach his disciples something very important. That the woman is, in a way, a test case to expose the prejudice in his disciples. And to teach his disciples a very important lesson about prejudice And the lesson is this. This is from Gordon Franz, who was a Plymouth Brethren commentator from some decades ago. An exclusive mentality caused by pride, one that says we're better than you economically, ethnically, physically, religiously, can result in prejudice and could lead to partiality and discrimination. Or even worse, we saw last weekend in Charlottesville. All of us need to acknowledge that we often act like the disciples here. And we must work to overcome our own prejudices regarding whatever makes us different from other people. Our race, religion, orientation, social status, financial status, age, abilities. Jesus is calling us, like his own disciples, to wake up. Our loving God is in control. And we need to understand and accept that reality now more than ever. And as we face this world in crisis, worrying about nuclear attacks and other terrorist attacks around the world and riots and who knows what else is coming this week, Jesus' message to us is clear. Love God, love one another, and trust that our loving God is in control. That's no spoiler alert. It may be a surprise, and it may take a while to get there. So let us all love God and love one another as we wait. Amen.
Amen.